Good morning. Number 14. I didn't sleep really good. I keep having delusions of lots of delusions. Wanted to announce to you guys what will be the fiction book, because the story that I'm really in the mood to read is The Little Princess. And I just like the way the author paints human nature in that story. And I think it'll be nice. After all these dog torturing people teach us to be better humans. Alright. Continuing. Another example of conditioning at work may also illustrate that techniques consciously applied in the brainwashing situation, and therefore feared as something sinister and hitherto unknown, may occur quite unconsciously with the same effects in situations of ordinary life. For example, the example is the conditioning power of words. Perry London, in Behavioral Control, speaks of the semantic generalization effect in conditioning. We have already seen the generalization effect when a fear of the white rat spreads to become a fear of all white furry objects. In semantic generalization, the conditioned response also spreads to words. So, a child who is taught to fear dogs may also come to fear the word dog. In laboratory experiments, people have been taught quite effectively to salivate on hearing bland, In laboratory experiments, people have been taught quite effectively to salivate on hearing bland, uncontentious words such as style or earn, where the word itself has been used as a conditioned stimulus. London suggests that it is possible, systematically, to give words, and therefore language, London suggests that it is possible, systematically, to give words, and therefore language emotional connotations, that are totally unrelated to their rational properties and meanings, he says. Love of God, of country, of tribe, of party, or of principle, fear, distrust, and contempt for strangers, minorities, majorities, races, religions, doggies, and harmless little garter snakes have all been taught in every human society by classical conditioning, in which words take their connotations from the emotions aroused in connection with their use. Oh wow, that reminds me of people who influence youngins, how they'll use their face to say a word, but their face is saying the opposite of that word. So it'd be like, sorry, the only example that comes to my mind is from a movie. Stephen King's Cat's Eye, something like that. I'm old. My movie references will be old. And so the woman's trying to kill the cat. She's trying to poison the cat. And she'll have the bowl, and she'll be coaxing the cat to come to it. Come here, you furry little bastard. Come here, you jerk. I really hate you. Come here, baby. Yeah, not baby, because baby's a connotated word of love. But, for an example. There's all kinds of examples. I just can't come up with any. I have only been awake for 40 minutes. me a while to get moving. I'm not awake yet. Okay. Lifton also pointed out the connection between language and behavior. Terms used in thought reform were never just words. They were all morally charged, either very good or very bad, and thus took on a mystical quality. As described in Chapter 3, Worf showed that the carefulness or carelessness of behavior around dangerous substances was dictated by the men's understanding of the words used to describe them, and the associations those words had for them. To return momentarily to the various protests of feminists, one common complaint is that we are all conditioned by language to see males as more significant than females. This occurs through the seemingly innocuous use of the word he to describe an anonymous person who could be of either sex. For example, if someone has an item to be added to the agenda, if he would please submit it in writing. This is an example that we would use in speech. Although it is known and accepted in such a case, he is used in a generic sense. It is argued that it is the rare reader who will not visualize a male rather than a female when the word is read. The usage subtly reinforces existing conditioning that a woman's role is inferior to that of a man. Jerome Frank, in Persuasion and Healing, expresses great interest in the power of conditioning words, both used consciously as someone whose aim is to persuade, like an interrogator, and unconsciously by someone whose aim is... How about we start over? Jerome Frank, in Persuasion and Healing, expresses great interest in the power of conditioning words, both used consciously by someone whose aim is to persuade, like an interrogator, and used unconsciously by someone whose aim is in fact the exact opposite, to create an uncoercive atmosphere where expression can be free and uninhibited, like a psychiatrist, psychotherapist. Frank says, what would happen if the experimenter concealed from the subject both his own viewpoint and the fact that he was trying to get him to express it, but by using techniques of which the subject was unaware, caused the latter to say what the experimenter had in mind? Why are we not understanding anything this morning? Frank says, what would happen if the experimenter concealed from the subject both his own viewpoint and the fact that he was trying to get him to express it, but by using techniques of which the subject is unaware, caused the latter to say what the experimenter had in mind? Did that make sense yet? What would happen if the experimenter okay, who cares? We're just moving on. One would expect this to be a powerful means of persuasion, since the subject would think that the viewpoint he expressed was really his own. Actually, such a technique does exist, and its implications for understanding aspects of psychotherapy may be far-reaching, especially since psychotherapists use it continually, albeit unwittingly. A growing body of experimental findings, to which we now turn, suggests that a person can guide a speaker's verbal productions to a considerable degree by subtle cues of approval or disapproval, without the speaker being aware of what is happening. Frank then goes on to discuss the experiments on humans, which arose from Skinner's discovery of the technique called operant conditioning and described earlier in this chapter. If a pigeon could be made to bowl by having any bowling behavior rewarded by food, Perhaps people's speech could also be conditioned in the same way, so that, by receiving rewards for saying the right thing, they would gradually come to say all that was wanted for the purpose in mind. The rewards, in the case of the humans, would be signs of approval instead of food, and the signs would have to be subtle if the subject of the experiment was not to pick up on what was going on. Greenspoon published the findings of such an experiment in 1955. Some graduate students were asked to sit for about an hour and tell the experimenter all the words that came into their heads, which the experimenter then wrote down. The experimenter was ostensibly just the recorder of their outpourings. However, it had been arranged that he would attempt to exert a variety of very subtle influence on the proceedings unknown to the students. So every time one set of students named a plural noun, he would make a grunting sound, with a slight affirmative inflection to the tone. When the other set of students named plural nouns, he did the opposite, producing a negative-sounding grunt. Statistical analysis showed that affirmative grunts led the students who heard them to name more plural nouns, and negative grunts reduced the number that were named. Other experiments inspired by this case, and cited by Frank, show that certain people were more susceptible to such conditioning than others. Anxious people, particularly, keen to please the interviewer, God knows. Dang. Let's try that one again, too. We're having a bad reading morning. Anxious people, particularly keen to please an interviewer, however unconsciously, were more easy to condition than stable people. Compliant people, probably for the same reasons, were easier than defensive people. Dependence upon the experimenter's opinion, therefore, seemed to play a part in the ease or otherwise of conditioning by subtle verbal cues. It is worth pointing out that nearly all the subjects in these experiments showed no awareness that they were being conditioned in any way. In War on the Mind, Peter Watson describes the technique as one of the methods put into practice by police and security forces during interrogations. He describes it as follows. Using the technique of instrumental operant conditioning, a prisoner's behavior may be modified by rewarding or punishing him according to principles laid down by the captors. The principles are not necessarily readily apparent to the captive. For example, a prisoner may be fed only when he talks about the general area in which the interrogators are interested. This way, the prisoner finds it easier to talk about some topics rather than others. Every time the prisoner says something of which the guard approves, the guard says, "Right," and offers some form of encouragement. Gradually, imperceptibly, the field is narrowed down so that the prisoner is talking about what the guard wants. As Frank's main interest is in psychotherapy, he is more interested in showing how such tactics can have the same effects that Watson describes, but without either party knowing consciously what was going on. He cites a study by Bandura in 1960, which showed that psychotherapists do have a tendency to register approval or disapproval of the statements their patients make, in accordance with their own personality traits. 12 therapists were tested for their own ability to express hostility directly and for the extent to which they sought approval from other people. Hold on, what the hey? Quite quite frankly, I'm probably just too concerned that I get this thing uploaded before work. And I had to get up an hour early for work today. Maybe that's what's distracting me. So let's try sentence over again. Sorry about my not so skilled doings this morning. 12 therapists were tested for their own ability to express hostility directly and for the extent to which they sought approval from other people. So 12 therapists were tested to see how they would do their own anger, hostility, and just how far will they seek approval before they express such. Afterwards, their performances in therapy with clients were monitored. It was found that those who could not express hostility themselves tended to react in a discouraging way if their patients expressed hostility. And those who had been rated as having a high need to be approved of by others also reacted against hostility from the patient. I have a note. My note is dang. I had a good note too. It was poignant. See if it comes back. Afterward, their performances in therapy with clients were monitored. It was found that those who could not express hostility themselves tended to react in a discouraging way if their patient expressed hostility. Oh, yes, children and making beds. Remember the previous, and let's mark where we are here today so that we can get back to it. The previous conversation where the mother wanted to go to the psychiatrist to find out why her children won't pick up their rooms. You know, how do I get my kids to do their chores? And, kind of dawned on me, like, A, how many psychiatrists did she go to? B, why were the psychiatrists interested in teaching her how to manipulate and control the behavior of others to her own desired end, rather than try something like, I don't know, why don't you make a time of making the bed with your child? Make that a personal time together. I mean, obviously we're going to stop. Alright. Well, that is so fine because we just weren't reading that well anyway. But at any rate, exactly what I said, exactly what I mean. We've been studying psychology about how to control behavior, how to understand why humans make such behaviors, but the psychiatrist interested in helping a mother with her children who would not obey. Let's suppose the mother says, well, they should just do their chores. It's 8 p.m. It's time to get ready to go to bed. They should just do their chores and be done with it. What do you want to do? Well, I want to get on with my life. I want to sit still, watch a TV show, take a shower, and go to bed. And that's why they have to do their dishes, or not do their dishes. Obviously, that's a Freudian slip, children. Dishes was a problem in my household. So, I'm trying to get to my point. Instead of the doctor asking a question of what need is your child expressing by their rebellion, or why is it so important to you that this thing be done, what's its cause, or if you wanted to change the child's behavior, you want to put a positive aspect on the activity. It could be that the child doesn't want to clean because it is expressing its own selfishness. You don't want to go clean with the child because you would rather watch your TV. They feel resentment because you're not helping it join them, or you're telling them to do something that they're perceiving it as some type of hypocrisy. I mean, these things are quite intricate. I guess my thought was mostly about why not have changed the behavior by making it a point of spending those 20 minutes a day fully being with your child, talking, playing, laughing, joking, being quiet, listening, or just doing the task. It takes less than 20 minutes a day, less than the time it's taken you to watch this video, to create a desire in your child that cleaning is positive and good and fun. But no, each one of those psychiatrists that they went to was under the same impression that to control others was the use of psychology. I think we got things twisted.